she cries so loud at night?
My husband was tired of babysitting our 5-month-old daughter. To my surprise, he shoved my child into a cardboard box and locked her in. He then went on a trip to have an affair in high spirits and returned home 2 days later. To his surprise, the room was filled with a foul odor.
No way.
His hands rattled and trembled as he peeled the duct tape off the box, and he rushed to check, but it was too late. It was an irreparable condition that made him want to cover his eyes. The cost of the affair was too great, and my husband lost everything and went to hell. My name is Melanie and I am 38 years old. I was a housewife on parental leave after 8 years of marriage. I lived with my husband, Sean, who is the same age as me, and our 5-month-old daughter, Melody. My husband was a salesperson for a client of the company I worked for. He was cheerful and vivacious, and talking with him cheered me up. We had longed to have a child since we were newlyweds, but we were unable to conceive, and we had been undergoing infertility treatment for a long time. It was hard physically and mentally, and we almost gave up many times. There were times when I was even subjected to the heartless words of a junior colleague. Even so, we worked hard and believed that we would be able to meet our child, and as a result, the treatment bore fruit and we were able to give birth to our long-awaited daughter. It was an older birth and sometimes physically demanding, but watching Melody live her life with innocence and dedication blew away my exhaustion. From now on, my husband and I have to protect our child no matter what. I was filled with hope and anticipation after having this treasure of a child in my life. However, the happy time did not last long. Another problem began to plague me at that time. One day, after putting our daughter to bed, I was preparing dinner when my husband came home from work.
Oh, I'm so tired. Melanie, serve me a nice cold beer.
Sure, you're tired. Oh. That's when I opened the fridge and realized I was out of beer. Honey, I'm sorry. I think I accidentally forgot to buy some. When I said I was sorry, he turned red and became angry.
What? Don't be silly. I've been working. You've been home all day and you can't even shop properly.
I'm sorry. I apologized again, but his words did not stop. I had no choice but to take off my apron and go buy beer. My daughter had just fallen asleep and I hesitated to wake her, so I asked him to watch her before I went out to the local supermarket. He shouldn't have been that mad at me. I was depressed by my mistake and saddened by the fact that my husband yelled at me. Sean, who had always been kind to me, suddenly became cold when I went on maternity leave.
Melanie, you are now a stay-at-home mom. It is your role to do the housework properly. I won't allow you to slack off.
He began to leave me to do all the housework, which we had previously shared, and he demanded more perfection than necessary, belittling me and scolding me. I was surprised and at the same time terribly hurt by this cold side of my husband, with whom I had lived in close contact for 7 years. But I can't help it. Sean is doing his best for our family. At that time, my husband had a new job and was very busy. He came home late every night, and sometimes he was away on business trips and could not come home for days at a time. All I could do was thank him and support him behind his back. My first delivery was full of anxiety and morning sickness was heavy, but I gritted my teeth and persevered. I hurriedly finished my shopping and returned home. Then I heard Melody's cries echoing all the way outside the front door. As I hurriedly picked up my daughter and fanned her, I saw my husband grinning and fiddling with his phone. Melody was crying so much, but he was ignoring her and looking at his phone. I tried my best to suppress the anger that was welling up inside me, and calmly spoke up. I asked you to watch Melody for a minute, didn't I? What were you thinking, leaving her alone on the phone? Then my husband glared at me disapprovingly.
Shut up. Even if I fussed over her, she wouldn't stop crying anyway. After all, nothing happened, so don't whine about it. You forgot to buy beer for me, and that's why I'm in this mess, isn't it?
Surely Sean is right. It was my mistake to forget to buy beer. I also had a sense of duty to my husband who works for our family. I said I was sorry.
Hun, if you understand, don't ever talk back to me. All you have to do is shut up and do what I say.
He snickered at me, opened the beer I had just bought him, and downed it in one gulp. He then proceeded to give me a long, pompous lecture about how I was a very inadequate mother, which went on for an hour. I was inwardly angry, but I could do nothing but hold my tongue. After that, I was heartbroken that Sean was losing interest in me. If one day we could be close again like we used to be, that was my only wish. However, as if to push me over the edge, something happened that shattered my trust in him at once. It was when my husband came home late at night. When I greeted him, I couldn't help but facepalm because he was wearing the smell of sweet perfume. I couldn't help but frown when I greeted him, because he was wearing the smell of sweet perfume. My husband, perhaps drunk or something, turned bright red, handed me his suit jacket, and walked with dazed steps to the bathroom. I casually checked his pockets and found something extraordinary inside. It was a cute heart-patterned message card. In distinctive letters, it read, "It's been almost 4 months since we started dating. I am looking forward to our trip." What on earth does this mean? He couldn't possibly be having an affair? While I was stunned, my husband was in a good mood in the bathroom and started singing loudly. "Honey, please be quiet. You're waking up Melody and disturbing the neighbors." It was 2:00 in the morning. I chastised him for behaving so insanely. But it was too late, and just then I heard my daughter's cries coming from the bedroom. Apparently, the noise woke her up.
It's the baby that's noisy, isn't it? You're her mother, so shut her up quick.
My husband raised his voice in a huff. Melody was startled by her father's yell and cried loudly as if she were on fire. I decided to take her outside. As I walked around the house, making small noises to reassure her, she seemed to have calmed down and her eyelids were getting heavier. I was angry at my husband's selfish behavior, but seeing my daughter's innocent face calmed me down. The next day, I decided to ask Sean about the message card.
He did it. You, don't make any funny mistakes, okay? This was a prank by a coworker.
At my question, he gulped and his eyes widened, but only for a moment. The next moment, he snickered and dismissed the question as if it were a joke. Really? This looks pretty elaborate for that.
Oh, come on, what are you talking about? You can look at my phone if you don't believe me.
He spoke confidently with the same attitude as usual. I check his phone to be sure, but find nothing suspicious. Well, then I must be mistaken, right? Although I showed some satisfaction, I was still filled with a hazy, blackened feeling inside. I had a vague recollection of the distinctive letters on the card and the perfume on my husband's shirt. But I had no proof, and it wouldn't do any good to pry any further. Not wanting to make any more waves for my daughter or myself, I apologized for doubting my husband and the matter was settled. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I received the news that my beloved grandfather had passed away. His home was far away, and I was hesitant to take my daughter there as it would require a plane ride. Since Sean was unreliable, I tried to find a sitter or a facility that would take care of our daughter, but they were all turned down because it was too urgent.
Then I'll take paid leave and take care of Melody.
When I was at my wit's end, Sean said something like that. My husband has not been able to take good care of our daughter. I was apprehensive, but having no other recourse, I had no choice but to leave her in his care. Then, in a great hurry, I put together the details concerning the care of our daughter, and my husband looked at it over and over again, with an ever-serious expression on his face. Maybe this will be an opportunity for him to be a father again. Thus, I left for my grandfather's house with my hopes for Sean in my heart.
Everything's fine over here. I told you I'd take care of her.
Later, when I arrived and called my husband, I could hear my daughter frolicking behind him as he spoke cheerfully. I patted my chest in relief and ended the call. Eventually, after the viewing and funeral, I said goodbye to my grandfather. I was relieved to be able to go home the next day, but then an incident occurred. It all started with a phone call from our neighbor, Kathy. "Hey, there's something that's been bothering me." She has been a good friend of mine since I moved in. With a 10-year-old daughter, Kathy is a reliable person, and I had asked her for advice about my daughter and other matters, and had told her that I would be away from home for my grandfather's funeral. She told me that the night before, she heard my husband yelling at our baby, "Your crying at night is so loud." She also said that she had seen him leaving the house in the morning alone, excitedly pulling a suitcase. Concerned about my daughter's safety, I asked Kathy to go check on our house. Oh. The curtains are open. The windows seem to be unlocked. Wait a minute, that can't be. As I asked her to come in through the window, I heard a flurry of activity and the sound of something being ripped open on the phone. My heart began to beat like a fast bell as I grew increasingly anxious. The next moment, Kathy screamed. Wait, what's going on?" I finally asked with a chill running down my spine. "Oh my goodness, it's Melody." According to her story, a cardboard box was placed unnaturally in the center of the living room, and through the gap between the handles, she could see what looked like a doll's hand. When she opened the cardboard, she said, she found my daughter, with her mouth covered with duct tape, shoved into the cardboard. What the hell? I took down my phone and sat there slumped on the floor. "Melody, get a hold of yourself." My friend's voice echoed in the distance, but I was too shocked to even get up. My eyes were so dark. 2 days later, my husband came home with an unsuspecting face. When he opened the living room door, he frowned and raised his voice.
Damn. What's that smell? No way.
My husband turned pale and scurried around, finally remembering what he had done 2 days earlier. With a startled look on his face, he reached for a cardboard box in the living room.
Melody, are you kidding me?
My husband's hands were shaking and his eyes were bloodshot with fear as he fearfully removed the duct tape from the cardboard box. The next thing he saw was his daughter lying face down in the box.
Melody.
But as soon as he reached into the cardboard and grabbed the object, he screamed, "Gee!" It was a baby doll wearing Melody's clothes and hat that Sean thought was his daughter. The stench was the used diapers we had put in with her.
What? What is this?
He had a dumbfounded look on his face, as if he had no idea why. That's not where that baby belongs. I stood in front of him, hiding behind the sofa, surreptitiously checking on Sean. 2 days ago, my daughter was shoved into a cardboard box with her mouth covered with duct tape by my husband. Fortunately, the worst was averted thanks to the quick thinking of our neighbor, Kathy. She immediately called an ambulance and Melody went to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, she had been treated and was sleeping peacefully. I was so shocked and wondered, what the hell is Sean doing to Melody? I couldn't stop shaking as I thought of my daughter, her mouth covered with duct tape, shoved into a dark, cramped cardboard box. Then, after consulting with Kathy, who was accompanying me, we decided to look into my husband. I then contacted a place and found out an unbelievable fact. What the hell is that? Absolutely unacceptable. I clenched my fists and made a decision. My husband, who had no idea that this was the case, was furious when he found out that he had been cheated.
Hey, what the heck is this? Did you do this? What the hell do you want with this prank?
I stared back at my husband, who was furious and yelling at me with cold eyes. That doesn't matter. Where have you been all this time? You said you were going to take a paid leave to take care of Melody, didn't you?
Shut up. It's none of your business. Don't pry into my affairs at every turn.
My husband started yelling at me with a blue streak on his temple as if to intimidate me. I was sure he was going to take advantage of the situation and cheat me. But I was not going to let him do what he wanted. Did you enjoy your trip with Anne? I was not intimidated and pursued further.
What?
My husband's face was pale and his eyes were darting around. What are you so surprised about? Let me tell you, I already know all about you. And was a junior employee at my company and was assigned to my job after I went on maternity leave. She hated me for some reason, and during my infertility treatment she was sarcastic and hurtful to me with her heartless words. The message card I used to find in my husband's suit pocket was not a prank by a coworker, and has a distinctive handwriting, and her face was the first thing that came to my mind at first. And the perfume on your clothes was hers, too. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it at the time, but I knew. I glared at my husband, and he looked impatient, his forehead sweating and slack-jawed.
Hey, what are you talking about? Oh, I was just going out for a minute because I had to go to work suddenly. I don't have a choice, do I? It's my job.
That's funny. When I called your company, they said you were taking paid leave to take care of your daughter and didn't request to come to work.
What? Why are you tipping off the company? What are you going to do if my position gets worse?
Hey, why should I be offended by you? And what is this all about? Can you explain it to me? I thrust my phone in front of my husband's eyes, who had gone completely pale.
Gee. How did you get that picture?
There was Anne, posing in front of a lavish meal at what appeared to be a hotel. On the table was my husband's prized limited edition watch, and in the corner were Sean's favorite clothes and bag. After I contacted my husband's company, I also called a coworker who was a good friend of mine at my place of employment. There I learned that Anne had taken a paid leave of absence, saying that she was going on a trip with her boyfriend. Furthermore, the coworker told me about her social media, and that is where I got the picture in question. My husband was pondering something for a while.
What's the big deal about this picture? I do have something similar to this watch and clothes, but what you see here is not mine. This picture doesn't prove anything.
He said this with spit flying from his mouth. It's true that this picture alone may not be enough proof of an affair. How about this then? As I scrolled down the screen of my phone, he looked aghast and speechless. There was a message from my husband.
Melanie saw the card you gave me and it was horrible. She's so jealous and annoying.
Then, that's funny. Melanie is so cheeky for an old hag, lol. Anne's reply was displayed.
How did you get that?
Your important tablet was left here. You registered her in WhatsApp under a guy's name. No wonder you showed it to me before without any hesitation.
Oh, come on. Don't look at my stuff without permission.
Oh, yeah, I found this too. I further tapped on one of Anne's social media accounts from her social media comments section, and there was a lovey-dovey two-shot photo of Sean and her. It was on social media, which my husband used behind my back. Some of the pictures were quite suggestive, including one of them kissing and another of them lying in bed together, wrapped in sheets. The husband finally gave up after all the incontrovertible evidence.
I'm sorry, Anne and I were just having fun. From now on, I will be devoted only to you, so please forgive me.
I was deeply disappointed by his words and let out a sigh. All you've been doing is defending yourself, and you haven't once asked me about Melanie. My husband's expression turned into one of shock and he opened his mouth to say something, but I continued without caring. Melody is in Kathy's care now. She's the one who rescued her.
Oh, well. That's good to know.
Huh? What's good about that? Do you even know what you've done? Suddenly you covered my mouth, locked me in a dark cardboard box. How painful it must have been.
Wow, I'm sorry. But Melody was crying so much. I was also in a temper, and I thought she would be fine for a couple of days.
You son of a bitch. You'd do anything for a cheating trip with her. He seemed to have lost the ability to say anything at my sword fighting, and turned his head over silently. I will never forgive you. Please divorce me. Naturally, you will pay child support and I will charge you and alimony. So be prepared. I declared once and for all, and my husband looked me in the eye, rattled and trembling.
Wait a minute. I don't want a divorce. Please forgive me because I will never do this again.
Huh? It's too late to apologize now. Then, as if my words were a signal, I heard the sound of a police car siren from far away.
What? Police? Melanie, you didn't call them, did you?
Of course I did. You did that much. You should spend some time behind bars and reflect on what you did.
No, I don't want to. I'll be fired from my job. Please, don't do that.
I gave my husband a cold stare as he pleaded with tears in his eyes and handed him over to the arriving police officer. Subsequently, my husband and I successfully obtained a divorce. I filed for $20,000 in alimony and $64,000 in child support for him and $13,000 in alimony for Anne, his cheating partner. They were both fired from their jobs for this incident and were apparently saddled with a large amount of debt. The husband was apparently released shortly thereafter, but was left on the street. He apparently tried to rely on his own parents. But when he saw his mother holding a cardboard box and his father holding up a duct tape, he ran away crying. I heard that some people have seen him living homeless, ravaged by everything. I heard that and had already disappeared into the night. I, on the other hand, had finished my parental leave and returned to work. With the help of my parents and Kathy, I have made a fresh start as a single mother. I am going to do my best to keep my daughter happy. What did you think of this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.